It's got a rub, it's got a mop sauce, which helps keep the ribs moist during cooking, and it's got a barbecue sauce, all made from scratch. The rib of choice is the baby back rib, and it's cut from right next to the backbone, high on the hog as it were. And I start with baby back ribs because they're more tender and better marbled than spare ribs. And the first step on the baby back rib is actually to remove the membrane on the inside of the rib. And this membrane, the technical name is the pleura. What you want to do is use a sharp instrument and loosen the membrane, and then grab it with a paper towel. It's a little bit slippery, and pull the membrane off the ribs. It impedes the absorption of the spice and smoke flavors. Just remove this membrane, and you'll wind up with something that looks like this. Now, the next step in making a great rib is to prepare the rub. And we make all our rubs from scratch. This is what I call a 4-4 rub, or Reichland's rub. It starts with equal parts salt, black pepper, paprika, and brown sugar. And that's really the only barbecue rub you need to know how to make. Now, to add a little more flavor, a little more complexity, onion powder, powdered mustard, and celery seed. And I recommend mixing the rub with your fingers. There are two ways to use a rub. Now, you can apply the rub as a seasoning, in which case it acts almost like a seasoned salt, 2 to 4 hours. And you can see when you do this, the rub actually cures the meat. And of course, when you marinate the ribs, do so in the refrigerator. So, while the ribs are marinating, let me show you how to light the fire and set up the grill. You'll notice I'm using a charcoal grill for these ribs. Now, I'm a big propane enthusiast. I own lots of gas grills, but the truth is, if you want to imbue ribs with that authentic smoke flavor, you must cook on charcoal. Charcoal in question here is natural lump charcoal, and I'm using a device called a chimney starter to light the charcoal. The charcoal goes in the compartment at the top, crumpled newspaper at the bottom, and you simply light the newspaper and place the chimney on the bottom grate of the grill. So why do you use a chimney starter? Well, first of all, it eliminates the need for using petroleum-based lighter fluids, which some people feel impart an unpleasant taste to the food. The other reason is that this vertical shape funnels the heat upwards so that the coals light uniformly. Will take about 20 to 30 minutes, and you'll see that all the coals will be uniformly lit. So while the charcoal is lighting, let me show you how to soak the wood chips for smoking. Spice may give ribs their personality, but smoke is the soul of true barbecue. To generate smoke, use a hardwood chip. These are apple chips. And soak the chips in cold water to cover for about a half an hour. The idea here is when you put the chips on the fire, you want them to smolder, not burn. Okay, back to our ribs. So how do you cook a large number of ribs in a small grilling surface? Well, you use a device called a rib rack. And the rib rack enables you to cook the ribs in an upright vertical position, fat side or spine side up. That way, as the fat melts, it will baste the meat. Now let me show you how to set up the grill for indirect grilling. Now, it's been about 20 minutes. You can see the coals in the chimney are uniformly lit. Each basket will hold half the coals, and this helps define your indirect grilling setup. The chimney will be hot, so be sure and wear heat-proof gloves. You may have wondered what this gizmo is for on the chimney starter. It's actually to help you pour the coals. So, pour a few coals in one side, and a few coals on the other side. And when you put the chimney down, remember it's hot, so never put it down on a deck. Now the last step here is to place a drip pan in the center between the mounds of coal. Drip pan will catch the dripping fat from the ribs and also, again, help you define your indirect grilling space. Put on the grill grate. Place the ribs in the rack in the center. And this is called indirect grilling because the fire is on either side of the ribs, not directly below it. And add a handful of wood chips to each mound of coals. Finally, place the lid on the grill, and you want to position it in such a way that the vent holes are between the mounds of fire so the smoke is drawn evenly over the ribs. To increase the heat, simply open the vent holes, more oxygen, hotter fire. To reduce the heat, simply close the vent holes, cooler fire. I'm actually cooking these ribs about 350 degrees. It's a hotter temperature than traditional barbecue. The reason is this, baby back ribs are very well marbled, and that high heat will sizzle the fat and give you kind of a crisp consistency. You'll also get to eat your ribs a lot quicker. And we're not done yet. I have to show you how to make the mop sauce. The mop sauce is one of the best kept secrets of professional pit masters, and it differs from a barbecue sauce in that it is neither sweet nor thick. This one contains salted butter, apple cider, and a little of your favorite bourbon. Simply bring these ingredients to a boil, and the reason it's called a mop sauce is that you apply it to the ribs with this, a barbecue mop. Okay, now you never want to put a mop sauce on a raw rib, but these have been smoke roasting for about 45 minutes. And simply dip the mop in the mop sauce, mop it, and the mop sauce serves three purposes. First of all, it helps keep the meat moist. Second of all, it adds an extra layer of butter, bourbon, and apple cider flavor. And finally, it gives you something really cool looking to do while your ribs cook. Well, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and these ribs are smoke roasted to perfection. Now, how do you know they're done? Take a look. You can see the meat has shrunk back from the end of the bone by about 1/4 inch. It's almost like a pop-up thermometer in a turkey. And what's the one thing that's been conspicuously absent from this recipe? Barbecue sauce. Because I believe the ribs should be smoke roasted and tasty enough that they don't need barbecue sauce. If you want to apply the sauce, put it on at the end. What you can do is just sort of lift the rib out of the rack and place it directly over the fire and brush the sauce on right on at the end. It's almost like a lacquering process. This is a lemon brown sugar barbecue sauce, and you'll find the recipe on our website. So just brush the rib sauce. So let's see how we did. One rib up here. I'm going to show you one way you recognize a perfect rib is that you can pull it apart with your fingers. And I want you to notice it does not fall off the bone, okay? Fall off the bone tender is a fallacy in the world of rib making. Ribs that fall off the bone have been boiled, and that is heresy in my barbecue religion. This rib is tender. If you look, come up close here. Do you see that little subcutaneous layer of pink right here? That's called the smoke ring, and that means you have nailed it. Let's take a taste. First timer's ribs, because you'll remember the first time the rest of your life.